Hello friends, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how chest rigs have changed over the last 15 years. I love nylon gear and I love trying out new gear from any era, and a couple of y'all actually requested that I do something like this, so hopefully you'll think it's kind of interesting. Training is very important to me and is by far the most fun aspect of shooting. As a result, I'm really passionate about all of the gear kind of related to that. It lets you try out new and exciting technique stuff, and it also lets me dress up like a douchebag at the range. It's a win-win. Everybody benefits. A little bit about my perspective. When discussing gun gear, I think perspective is critical. I'm a civilian, and my needs and opinions are thusly informed. I worry about home defense, I shoot guns in the woods, and sometimes I run around in those woods wearing tactical stuff. So my requirements are a lot less rigorous, I'm sure, than those of the military and maybe law enforcement. I first saw micro chest rigs pop up in the early 2000s, though they'd certainly been around prior to that. There's always been kind of that ebb and flow, the slow addition of crap until you're carrying, 15 magazines, and then the response is to move to the lightest stuff, carrying 3 or 4 magazines, and then it swings back the other way again. But the shift in the early 2000s, that was the first to occur during my time intensely interested in gun stuff and tactical training. And at the time, there were really 2 options that you saw frequently. There were folks that were wearing those Molly vests that were always just loaded with stuff, absolutely packed, or those non-modular full vests from Eagle Industries, and I think Black Hawk made a popular one at the time, and those look like the ones that the guys were wearing in the movie Black Hawk Down. So I think that movie also kind of fueled that popularity a little bit too. But then I started to see these harness-looking things, and I wondered, what are these? So I asked a guy who I had taken some classes from which one of those he would pick, and he pointed me towards the HSGI DACH, or the DAC. I bought it, I loved it, and I used it as my only chest rig for the last, 15 years. It's a damn good piece of gear, and it really represented the best that the era had to offer. It's still useful today. But at the moment, I'm running this Spiritus Systems Microfight. I think that this is really the height of the modern chest rig. So we're going to take a look at that as well, and we're going to look at how they've compared. I think that the Microfight is in many ways just sort of the natural progression. So it's light and simple, kind of like the DAC or the DACH, but this thing is able to become any number of rigs just by swapping some stuff out. But first, let's travel back in time and take a look at the DAC. So this is the DAC. It's a lot bigger, as you can see, than the Microfight, but still very small for the era. And I'll also have some footage of me wearing it and stuff so that you can see what it actually looks like in practice. But I love this thing. I loved it then, and I love it now. This thing was made by HSGI, like I said, who is still making super awesome quality gear. But I really liked this era of their products, and I've tried to track down a few of the things that they made during that time, and all of it is equally amazing. Features. HSGI has always made insanely good stuff, and this thing is built to a ludicrously high standard. It has 3 pouches across the front, and these have both Velcro and buckles. You can see that. And then these are the buckle-y doodads. And you can actually just use only the buckle if you want. There's this little Velcro-y pad here. You pull that out and stick it down. And now only the buckle will work. So the buckles let you secure everything very firmly, and they provide an extra impediment to accessing your magazine too. That could be good or bad, I guess, depending on the circumstance. And then the Velcro, if you want to just use that, lets you get to the magazines quickly, but then of course it doesn't hold them in as well. When I'm just at the range enjoying this thing, I usually just use the Velcro. It's pretty rare that I need the buckles. I mean, I'm just at the range, so it's not super critical that these don't fall out everywhere. And then on each side, you've got a little pouch for a pistol magazines or a flashlight or a knife or whatever. I've used them at various times for all of those things. And then on the back, I'm going to take the straps off for right now. All right, so on the back, we've got our first admin pouch, this kind of mesh one here. You can put whatever you need in there. I've used that for all kinds of things over the years. And then this big zipper here kind of covers up the best feature of this vest. So if we open this up, we have a big admin pouch. Probably the coolest admin pouch. Oh wow, I really made a mess there. This is just ridiculous having it like that on my desk. Okay, there we go. So inside we have the coolest admin pouch that I have ever seen to this very day. So for reference, here's the front of it. You pull it open like so. Check that out. So you can put a map or something in there, and you can actually write on it with a dry erase marker. How cool is that? Yeah, this cord suspends it from your chest like a folding tray. So you can write on it from your chest. How cool is that? And then we've got these pouches here for, I don't know, pens or knives or chem lights or whatever you might need, whatever. It's just absolutely brilliant. I love this thing. It is so great. That is its coolest feature. And everything is so overbuilt. Let's go back and look at those straps. So the straps are as overbuilt as everything else. Look at how thick that padding is. So how well does this thing work? It still works incredibly well, but by 2018, it had started to feel a little bit dated. I would watch how fast my friends could change mags, and I was really jealous. 10, 15 years ago, folks wanted fast mag changes, but there wasn't the emphasis on performing every action at blinding speed the way there is now. A lot of folks worried about magazine retention more than the speed of changing the magazines out, and I can usually tell an older fella if he's saying that those fancy new open top chest rigs aren't going to hold onto your mags. This rig is really comfortable to wear, but those big padded straps I was showing you, they make it so that you almost forget you're wearing it for the most part, with a slight problem. The straps are so thick, and they're right where I shoulder a rifle, and the butt of the gun wants to slide off to either side. Over the course of 15 years of use, I learned to work around it, but whenever I go back to this thing after some time away, I find it kind of frustrating. But where this rig exceeds many modern ones is that admin pouch. There's so much space in there, and it's just so damn cool. You can have all your maps in there. There's maybe a little GPS thingy, your phone, chem lights, or whatever. I love that pouch. It's so cool. However, does this pouch make up for the natural shortcomings of this kind of chest rig? I'm not sure. I don't know. And then something else that it's really obvious, but I feel the need to point it out all the same. This is not modular. You can't change it. Luckily, though, all the parts that HSGI chose are really useful, so you're probably not going to look at this thing and say, "Oh man, I hate this," or "I wish it had this." It's really well considered and thought out. They did a great job. Now, closer to the present, we've got my favorite modern chest rig, like we talked about, the Spiritus Systems Mk4 Microfight, and I've got my lovely Microtech pouch on the front and a handy-dandy Microtech inside it. Gotta love the Microtechs. They're so awesome. This is about as modern as they come, and it's very popular for a reason. If you're looking for a modern rig, this is one you have to look at. There's a reason that so many folks have these now. Let's take a look at the features. The Microfight is totally modular. You order the chassis bit, the straps, the pouchy, inserty things, and you put it together in any configuration you like. In fact, I have two of these set up differently. This one, my green one, is set up to hold a lot of ammo and really nothing else, making it super fun at the range or for home defense. And then I have a multicam one here. My other one here, my multicam one, looks a little bit bare because I borrowed the magazine pouch to put in my green one. This one is set up to have more useful stuff like medical junk, a flashlight, some food, that sort of thing. And it's got this dangly pouch there, which I'll show you me wearing this, and it'll become more apparent what that actually does. Outside of home defense in the range, ammo probably doesn't matter as much as that other stuff, and Spiritus has a pouch for every use and situation. The holster in here is really, really useful. I hope you can see that well. I took a G-code Glock 19 holster, and I used super glue to affix Velcro on either side, and now I've got a handy chest rig that holds everything I might need in a pinch, from medical stuff to my handgun. I know this is a Glock Model 45, but it works all the same. You know, it's got the 19 slide, so it fits in a 19 holster. Yeah, you're smart. You know what I'm talking about. The modularity is genius. I've always hated those Molly vests, and I couldn't get rid of the last one I had fast enough. Really not a fan. Molly is heavy, and all the pieces kind of shift subtly, and everything has extra thickness and girth. Great for wieners, bad for gear, that extra thickness and girth. And if you decide you want to change the setup of your vest or whatever, Molly is really hard to undo it really fast, for me anyway. It turns into a kind of an endeavor to make that happen. So the Spiritus is just held together with good old-fashioned Velcro. Everything is just Velcroed in. And it's really sturdy. You would think that would not work, but it absolutely does. And then these inserts, they're elastic. Look at that. Just plain old elastic. It's pretty wild when you think about it. Absolute genius. So this whole setup is really light with the emphasis kind of on comfort and speed. And I think the greatest feature might be the ability to remove the straps and affix the chassis to a compatible ballistic vest or whatever you Costco commandos are calling body armor these days. I know that you could put this on Spiritus's own LV-119 and the Faro Concept Slickster. Both of those options are just awesome and very popular for a reason. I would buy either one without hesitation. How well does the Microfight work? It is awesome. In the same way that the HSGI feels a little bit dated, the Microfight feels cutting edge. Having the option to quickly change the configuration of a chest rig is super cool and useful. Yeah, the Molly rigs have been around forever, but it's much harder to change the stuff on those in a pinch. It's no exaggeration that you can change the Microfight in a few minutes, and Molly isn't anywhere close to that speedy. But look, it's all for nothing, right? If this stuff doesn't stay put, and the Spiritus is very stable. I've never had a piece move or come loose, and I've heard from other folks who say the same, that theirs have held up perfectly well. I love the open top. There's no flippity flaps covering the magazines unless you want them. You can put them there if you want them, and I have them on my my multicam chest rig to hold in, like flashlights and stuff. But you can get the magazines out of this thing very fast, and contrary to what the internet might tell you, you can also get them back in with relative ease. People act like there's no way to get the magazine back in, and that's just ridiculous. They just go right back in the elastic. And they don't make a clicking sound moving in and out of the inserts, which is really great if you're, sneaking in and out of Soviet missile bases, or far more likely for most of us, these don't make a clicking sound that will drive your wife crazy when you're practicing a cool reload that you saw on YouTube. The Microfight's really comfortable to wear, too. Even with all these magazines in it, it's really balanced, and I love how high it sits on my chest. I don't like rigs and vests that ride low. That never feels right to me, and they tend to slide around all over the place. But here's the best thing that I can say about the Microfight. Using it is intuitive and easy. After a few hours, you almost forget that you've got it on until you look down and realize that you're dressed like a ridiculous fake army man wearing J. Crew jeans. The Microfight is the best chest rig I've found for sure. So how do these two compare? By the way, I'm sorry for how these are arranged on my desk. These take up a remarkable amount of room, and there's no way for me to film this well with my super shitty setup, so I'm sorry. Despite all the changes in both technology and doctrine in the last 15 years, either one of these is really still a totally workable option, though the Spiritus has some very clear advantages. Most obviously, the Spiritus can be configured to do anything you might ever need a tactical vest thingy to do. And you could set this thing up in such a way that you wouldn't even necessarily have to have a single magazine in it. You could set it up in such a way that it just holds piles of medical gear or 15 flashlights or whatever, and that's really impressive. The HSGI, though, is kind of locked in place. What you see is what you have. That's not a bad thing, though, if you need these features, and these are all very, very useful features. When shopping for older gear, that's important to remember. You have to more carefully select exactly what you need. The modularity might matter to you a great deal, as it does to me, or you may not need that feature at all. I do a lot of different stuff, and I shoot a lot of different guns in different calibers. I need that modularity. But if you have, let's say, an AR-15 and a Glock, and that's really all you shoot, this is probably the only setup that you need. That modularity might just not be necessary to you at all. So it's either the most important feature or the least. So let's compare the HSGI to the Spiritus configured in a similar way. Magazine changes with the Spiritus are blisteringly quick compared to the HSGI. Having to lift a flap or worse, unclip and lift the flap costs you time. I'm substantially faster with the Spiritus, though this gap can be closed with training just like anything else. The HSGI requires that you close the flap after you finish changing out your new mag, or at least you'll have to close it at some point in the near future, or you'll leave a trail of magazines after you go traipsing off into the woods, showering the grass and trees with P-mags like some sort of tactical Hansel and Gretel. And whenever we're discussing the open top rigs like this, somebody inevitably pops up to tell you that you're going to lose magazines, or mysterious tree people are going to descend from the branches of the nearest poplar to snatch your P-mags right out of the vest. But in my experience, these tree people probably don't exist, and the magazines are very well retained by the elastic inserts. Keep in mind, though, that I'm a civilian out there doing civilian stuff. If you're in the military or law enforcement, you may need a more secure magazine retention method. It's not for me to tell you what you need, but I can say that for what I do, tooling around in the woods, the open top is perfect. HSGI has that big, beautiful admin pouch. You gotta love that. Spiritus has nothing really comparable to that. No one does. Still to this day, I love that damn pouch, and it keeps me coming back to this vest. Do I need it for tactical maps and cool secret mission stuff? You know, I really don't. I definitely don't. But I love that I have this space for a notepad to track my training progress, a few pens with which to write on that notepad, a flashlight, a knife, some candy, and a protein bar, fucking whatever else. And all this folds out to make something that's almost like a mobile work surface. It's just really cool. The Spiritus and other vests, for that matter, is just not anything like that. Now, I don't know how genuinely useful that pouch actually is, but I love it all the same. Everything fits really well in this dangly Spiritus pouch. That kind of does the same thing for me with my multicam chest rig. Also, in every way, the Spiritus straps are better. Despite having less padding, they're way more comfortable. The HSGI ones are just too thick and not wide enough. At the time, that was the height of tactical strap technology. Look at that padding. But it's just, it feels sort of precarious when you go to shoulder your rifle. About half the time, it's really uncomfortable when you do that. And I think that the shooting is kind of an important part of the whole thing. And it'll want to slip to either side. Again, you can train around this, and I certainly learned to as time went on, but it's not ideal. On the HSGI, I do really like these pistol mag pouches. I haven't found any that are as good as these. And I know that it's just a pouch with a Velcro flap across the top, but they're in exactly the right place. They're exactly the right size. The top closes in a very satisfying way. They're awesome. But fundamentally, the Spiritus is more streamlined, fast, and comfortable. All that said, though, if you love your older rig, that's okay too. You're not at a serious disadvantage, though much has changed in the last 15 years. Good gear is good gear, and something like the DAC works just fine. I'm not kidding when I say that a month doesn't go by that I don't feel the urge to pull this old thing out. It's a beautiful piece of gear, and there's a reason that I didn't feel the need to upgrade for a decade and a half. All right, so first we're going to take a look at how the HSGI DAC works. We're going to do some mag changes and see how much slower it is than the Spiritus. We'll use my trusty Aero Precision with pencil barrel for assistance. So first, I'm going to drop the magazine and make an insane ruckus. So our first pouch here is going to be with the little latchety thing and the Velcro. So let's see how slow that would be. Okay. Kind of takes a while, and then the flap always wants to fall back down. Yeah, that's pretty slow. All right. Let's try that again. This one will just have Velcro. A little bit faster, but you're still fighting that flap the whole time. All right, now the last one is just the latch. Such a ruckus. All right, and that was probably a little bit slower than the Velcro. So this thing, not super modern, but it gets the job done completely. Let's take a look at my favorite feature, and that's that admin pouch. So, it kind of comes down like this. you lose all your magazines on the ground because you left your pouch open. You can put like a map or something in there, and you know, if you're so cool that you need a map that you can write on, you can put pins, maybe like a GPS. This is just so cool, and it makes like a little tray. Being a civilian, I would never use this, but god damn it, it's so cool. You can't tell me this doesn't get your attention. It's really nice. I know you'll want one of these now. And the admin pouch was available in one, I think it was called the Warlord. And then I think there was one called the Denali that has this pouch, maybe. But either way, you should probably buy the Warlord just because it's called the Warlord. All right, so let's take a look at the Spiritus and see how it's going to compare to the HSGI. All right, so now let's take a look at the Spiritus Microfight Mk4 to see how it compares to the DAC. I suspect it's going to be a lot faster. I know from past experience it is a lot faster. All right, so you just get that out of there, get the new one in, and just like that, you've done a reload. It's incredibly convenient. And, you know, something I was thinking about earlier, it's also easier to get these magazines back in as well, even than the DAC. Because the DAC, you've got to lift the flap up, and let me tell you, when you lift the flap up, it absolutely just falls right back over the pouch and blocks it up so that you can't get to it. So, this is really, really convenient. Yeah, you gotta love it. If you're looking for a new one, I'd highly recommend the Spiritus. So let's take a look at a couple other features while we're at it. So, having everything sort of tiered like this, you can get to all of them. They kind of stair step down, so you can grab anything. They're not all on top of each other. I also like that the Spiritus has these expander wings that you can put on the side, or they have that dangly pouch. In fact, let's take a look at my multicam version so that we can look at the dangly nutsack pouch that's on that one. All right, so let's take a look at the multicam Spiritus Microfight Mk4 and the dangly nutsack pouch. Also, I've got my Glock holster here. This is a G-code holster that I just super glued Velcro to so it'll sit in there. This is really cool because I've got my pistol in the pouch. Everything that one might need to grab is right here. No need for a belt or anything like that. It's really cool. It just snaps in and out. And then you can see how the Spiritus flip flap works too. Okay, so this pouch just Velcros to the back of the Microfight and is very secure, and you can even wear it with attached to a ballistic vest or whatever. So we've got a little pocket on the front here, which we've got an Aero Precision pin in there. And then, let's see, here in the bottom, we've got a flashlight and this thing and my wallet and an unopened pack of batteries that I found in a drawer. And microtech. You always got to have a microtech in everything. Very, very important. So yeah, you can put all this stuff in there. Is it the same though as the HSGI admin pouch? No, it's not. But you probably don't need that anyway. This is probably a more useful thing to actually have. And you get to say that you have a dangly nutsack pouch, which that's worth its weight in gold, if I'm being honest.
And now, a rant. The way we talk about tactical gear really frustrates me. This is best illustrated by how we discuss holsters and chest rigs too. But though my holster preference is for Kydex stuff like that awesome G-code in my Spiritus, every now and again I like to use either one of those old Eagle Industries nylon ones, or if I want to be particularly inflammatory, a Blackhawk Serpa. Some guy inevitably tells you that you're going to kill yourself with a holster like that. These are always the same guys telling you that you have to own a specific gun with a specific rifle, or you aren't safe, or a serious shooter, or ready to take a class, or fucking whatever. In my years playing guitar for a living, I've run across hundreds of folks who spend more time looking at guitar shit to buy than they do actually playing. And this seems to happen a lot in the world of cycling as well. And I have terrible news for you. That stuff doesn't matter. As long as you have a decent pistol, a decent rifle, and some sort of magazine receptacle that you wear on your person, it does not matter what you selected. And the people telling you otherwise don't shoot that often, or they would know that too. For 10 years, I owned one Glock, one Bushmaster M4 shaped thingy, and this chest rig. All of my time and money was spent on ammo and classes instead of new guns. And watching the folks at classes, I quickly realized that your shit is the least important part of the equation. Let me explain. I'm a mediocre shooter at best, and I thought I was managing okay with the meager stuff that I had. There was a lady I saw at a class who had a Smith & Wesson Sigma, generally regarded as one of the biggest turds ever to hit the gun market, and she fucking aced the class, and then she did it with a $10 holster. And you know what? With that nylon holster, she never did shoot herself in the leg and die. Crazy, right? Training and experience is the only thing that matters. If the Costco commandos in the YouTube comments use the time they spend telling folks with Serpas that they're going to kill themselves, or you, if they took that time to go to the range, they would find that they shoot far better and don't have to worry so much about the shit they bought or plan to buy. The stuff is a distraction. The stuff is easy. It's easier to buy a new gun than it is to spend every Saturday for 3 months honing your speed. It's easier to spend more time shopping for new flashlights than it is to practice target transitions. Look, I like buying new guns as much as the next guy. It's fucking fun. But if you already have a perfectly fine gun and that fancy new pistol is going to keep you from buying your next crate of ammo, you don't need the pistol. Put ammo and range time first. Put your skills first. Guns can either be about self-betterment or they can be your keyboard hobby. You pick. Final thoughts. To wrap up, whatever tactical vest you have is fine, but if you're looking to buy one, the Spiritus Microfight is the place to start. And if you happen to see one of these old HSGI ones for sale, it might be worth a look. We live in the golden age of gun junk. When I was first getting into the sport, I couldn't have imagined how much stuff we would have access to in just 15 years, but that doesn't mean the old stuff doesn't work. It just might not be as fast, and training would probably narrow that speed gap anyway. And last of all, if you have something that works for you, keep using it. If you've got a good thing going with your tactical stuff, keep it up. There's no right or wrong tactical gear if it's getting the job done. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you soon. Good night.